Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. On July 7th at the Monroe County Election Board meeting, Election Supervisor Karen Wheeler presented the last of the late CFA4 filers.
We had a number of late filers and we've dealt with a few of them. One was from the last board meeting, Mary Van Devender. The board agreed to waive her fines. However, we found out that since we didn't have a signed public notice, a public meeting notice signed, that the person on Zoom, which I believe was Chair Rana, that vote didn't count. We needed a unanimous vote so we could vote on whether we wanted to continue with her not having a fine.
Board member Shruti Rana asked for clarification if the first fine is always forgiven.
And I think we had discussed earlier that our policy for a first-time violation is to not impose a fine, and give the person another opportunity to do it correctly the next time.
Wheeler confirmed that the first offense is forgiven. The board voted unanimously that all of the fines for first-time offenders will be waived. Later, Wheeler updated the board on how the ballot is coming along.
I'm starting on the ballot. That is probably the biggest job of this job. And so there's a lot of things in place. Of course, school board hasn't even started. They will be starting their it's going to be open July. It's going to be the end of July. I don't remember the date, maybe the 26th, something like that. And then it runs for a month. Right now, any candidate can remove themselves from the ballot for no reason up to July 15. And so things are moving, things are filling in. A lot of things look really good, but there's still a lot of parts to be filled in here.
The next election board meeting will be held on August 4th. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying.
I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me.
Welcome back to CATSweek. On July 6th, at the Monroe County Commissioners meeting, Health Department Population Health and Outreach Manager Kathy Hewitt and Senior Community Health Specialist Melanie Veslage shared the 2021 Monroe County Health Assessment and outlined how the community will be involved in creating the 2022 Community Health Improvement Plan. First, Veslage explained to the commissioners what a community health assessment is.
So what is a community health assessment? A community health assessment is a systematic process involving the community to identify, analyze, and prioritize issues that affect community health. So over the past couple of years, the partners for the community health assessment have gathered health data and perspectives of hundreds of community members to better understand local health conditions and priority issues. So this assessment will serve as a guiding document for the community health improvement plan that we will soon begin developing.
Hewitt shared what the think tanks found to be priority issues in the community, and Veslage explained how action groups will be used to involve the community in developing goals and strategies.
So at the think tank, 3 priority issues rose to the top during the day. The first was substance use and mental health, then poverty and navigating health and social services, and last is inequity, discrimination, and bias. So affordable housing, homelessness, and housing insecurity was also decided to be a top issue, but that issue is currently being addressed by the United Way of Monroe County the Community Foundation of Bloomington, and the Monroe County's Heading Home Initiative. Next slide.
All right, so next steps, the formation of the CHIP groups and the action teams. So the next step in the process will be the development of these Monroe County Community Health Improvement Plans, or CHIPs. So the CHIP groups will be formed in the 3 priority areas, as Kathy identified earlier. The team members will work together to review recommendations from community members from the Community Health Assessment, that guiding document we talked about. And they will work together to co-create goals and strategies from the ground up that are designed to move our community forward towards change. So this kickoff meeting for the CHIP action teams will be held this coming Thursday, July 14th from 12 p.m. until 1 p.m. in the Fountain Square Ballroom on Kirkwood Avenue, with a half an hour afterwards for networking. Participants are asked to attend regular meetings as scheduled by those individual CHIP teams. So if you're part of the substance use mental health team, you would attend those meetings with that particular group. And there's the thought of having a larger meeting 3 or 4 times a year with all 3 of those CHIP groups coming together. In the past, these meetings have been scheduled on a monthly basis. And if you weren't able to or aren't able to attend the kickoff meeting on Thursday in person, you can still sign up for those CHIP groups. So you can go online at the address on your screen, bit.ly/CHAWandCHIP, or email me at mveslage@co.monroe.in.us. All of this information is on the county website. We have summary information. We have previous CHAW and CHIP write-ups, all sorts of stuff. So if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Commissioner Penny Githens said that she was surprised to learn what the focus groups revealed as priority concerns in the county.
Well, I'd heard of an earlier run through of this at the SUDEC meeting, and I was actually surprised that substance use and mental health disorder was like at the top of the needs here. So it speaks to both the fact that we have been working on this, but the need is still very great.
Next, Auditor Breon Gregory presented a formal statement of county salaries and wages proposed for the 2023 calendar year. Before approving the salaries and wages, Githens remarked that inflation has risen by 8% in Indiana.
I just want to say that I was talking with an economist recently who said that in the Midwest, the consumer price index for May to May is 8.8%, meaning that's how much inflation has hit here. Cost of living has risen. And it particularly hard hit, of course, is with the price of gasoline, but also housing and food has gone, cost of those have gone up significantly in our area. So I hope as we move forward that we'll remember that.
Commissioner Lee Jones said that she hopes inflation will go down and that county salaries will be able to keep up. On July 5th, at the Bloomington Redevelopment Commission meeting, there was a public hearing about the agreement with Meridium for a fiber optic network. A community member said that she was in favor of the contract with Meridium.
This looks like a really well thought out plan, and really appreciate the diversity and inclusion aspect of ensuring that people will have access, and love seeing the part about having it available for Bloomington Housing Authority. So I just want to say it looks like a really great opportunity for Bloomington.
Parks and Recreation Operations Director Tim Street asked the board to approve a contract with Cassidy Electric to install lighting in Seminary Park. Board member Cindy Canarney asked how long the installation would take.
I don't know exactly how many days it will take in the scope of that, but what we did set in terms of when we want this to be complete by is by the month of October. And so we would like to see these installed before we get to specifically the time change, again, in much darker evenings. But it could be much sooner. We're just allowing for some flexibility in the contract of making sure we can get in there. It will be sort of multi-phase. First, it'll be getting in there, finishing removal of a couple of the old remaining light poles and demoing those concrete foundation bases before they come back in, pour the 5 new bases, and install the lights as provided.
Canarney also asked if there would be more lights in the park than before.
Yeah, good question. No, it is actually less lights. So originally there were 9, sort of 10, depending on how you count the boundary of the park, and a street light on the east side of these acorn-style, sort of old-fashioned lights that were in the park. And they weren't down-facing or anything like that. They were very traditional. Over the course of the years, some of them broke, some of them were vandalized, and last summer, 2 of the final ones that we had in the park were vandalized and tipped over. So we went to the lighting designer, ESL Spectrum, and we worked with them to try to design something that we thought would be as efficient, that would provide the level of lighting that we're looking for. It actually provides more than what we're necessarily looking for in a park space, but we'll be able to control it. So they are dimmable and controllable. So if for some reason we need to raise the lights for a cleanup purpose or things like that, we will be able to. Let's see, to answer your original question, I'm all over the place. There will be 5 lights in place of the 9, but they are taller. Part of choosing taller lights was that they will be more durable and resistant to vandalism as well. And they are LED and dark sky compliant.
Street said that the lighting would be similar to what was just installed at the Lower Cascades Park. The board unanimously approved the installation of lights at Seminary Park. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
For hurting families in Monroe County.
A contribution to children who are vulnerable and in need of an advocate.
A staff that goes above and beyond to support and advocate for children in need of services.
The web of remarkable people who are dealing with difficult situations.
So many young people that are in need of help and trying to find a stable family, a stable place to live. Without the causes to make that happen, many of them would be unable to find a good home.
I love being that voice for the child who can't speak for themselves in court.
It takes me out of my comfort zone, and it also helps others.
CASA means supporting our community.
Being a CASA is making sure that your village is healthy and whole, and that the children in your village will someday be able to help the village as well.
A child who doesn't have a voice, maybe in their family situation or a school situation, now has a voice that can advocate for them.
I really enjoy working with children that are going through difficult times and letting them know that I care about their future.
We are privileged with our charge of representing the best interest of children. And so therefore we can advocate for exactly what they need without restriction, focusing on their best interest.
I want to repair the world one child at a time.
Welcome back to CATSweek. At the Bloomington Board of Public Works meeting on July 5th, Assistant City Attorney Daniel Dixon said that city staff have been working in collaboration with the Housing and Neighborhood Development Department and other departments with special experience regarding landscaping and plant species to discuss how to enforce the city's ban on yellow groove bamboo. Dixon explained that in 2020, the city officially made it impermissible to grow yellow groove bamboo on one's property.
Going back to the discussion that we've been having internally and sort of identifying a process, hand staff has recognized that bamboo, yellow groove bamboo in particular, poses a very unique enforcement challenge, but also a pretty unique remediation challenge as well because of its incredibly fast propagation, its ability to run great distances underground, pop up in other places, and just how difficult it is and how much time, sometimes 4 or 5 or more years it can take before it is effectively and completely removed. In viewing all of these things together, hand staff and our neighborhood compliance officers are going to be doing a bit of a different process when it comes to enforcement of bamboo. The first piece of this is going to be sort of a joint, what we'll look at as sort of an educational piece. When this was added to the UDO in 2020, it probably was not made so commonly known. I believe this was Amendment 50 that was made to the UDO. There was a lot of things going on at that time with that UDO update, and I don't think it was well known at the point that that was added to that list and that it wasn't an appropriate thing for people to maintain in their yards. So one piece of this is going to be utilizing the neighborhood outreach connections and other connections that the hand department has to provide some information and connections to already existing resources to improve people's awareness of not just the yellow groove bamboo, but other invasive species that were added to that list on the UDO. And with regard to yellow groove in particular, some resources such as MC Iris, our local invasive species group, that can help responsibly remove this. So apart from the education piece, we are also going to be changing the way that we do enforcement with regard to fines. The first interaction will be essentially a warning or a $0 fine, notice of violation, and that is to sort of continue the education piece to let the property owner know that this is now an unacceptable noxious plant that they're not supposed to have in their yard, and to give them an opportunity of about 90 days to connect with the resources that will be provided and to develop a plan for remediation and ultimately removal. And the reason for this is that, as I mentioned before, it's a very difficult thing to remove, and you have to do it responsibly because not only will it come back in the place where you hacked it down, but if you don't dispose of the shoots themselves responsibly, they can propagate and grow again wherever you've disposed of them, thus sort of amplifying the problem in another location. And so it needs to be done thoughtfully and deliberatively. And so after that 90-day period, we'll be looking at is there a plan in place and a process to start this removal? And then continued enforcement will just be monitoring to make sure that as time goes on, the footprint is being reduced, that it is being controlled and cut back, and that it is eventually being eliminated and removed. And if all those things are going well, then that will be considered compliance with regard to Title VI.
Dixon emphasized that the plant is invasive and hard to get rid of, so the city wants to make sure that the public is properly informed before attempting to remove it. Regarding the violation currently being appealed, Dixon suggested that the fine be removed since the process of eradicating the bamboo and replacing it with an alternative native plant would be at the expense of the property owner.
Given this change and sort of this policy that we think we're going to move forward with that provides a good balance of education and fairness, we would be agreeable to maintaining the notices of violation, so leaving the notices of violation in place because it is a violation of Title VI in our existing code, but removing the fine from the notices of violation so that there is no fine owed for these violations. The idea being that we would hope that the appellant would take the money not being paid to the city for this to begin the process of remediating and starting to control and remove and pull back that bamboo and replacing it with something that will provide her with the privacy buffer that she wants, but that's also an acceptable and native plant that has better local characteristics for our community. Ultimately, the last part of this process is that if an individual does either refuse or does not want to remove the bamboo, hand compliance officers and hand staff, we don't have discretion to not enforce the law. And so if we receive complaints and there's a violation and there's a refusal to comply with that, we need to follow what the municipal code requires us to do, which in this case would then ultimately be to move towards an abatement, where we would be coming back to the Board of Public Works, seeking approval for hand and its contractor to go onto a property to have this removed. And this kind of abatement would be, again, unique because it would be a continual process that would probably, again, take multiple years to complete.
Appellant Karen Charrington spoke in defense of her yellow groove bamboo, saying that it has not spread beyond the yard since she maintains it. She also said she would prefer to keep the bamboo for privacy.
I live next door to 1217 West 6th Street. Did you read my letter or did you look at any of the photos?
We did.
The bamboo's been there 30 years. I know how to maintain it. It hasn't come into my yard, and I live right next door. In the spring, you knock it down. and then you put plastic on it. But anyway, I'm maintaining it, and I'm doing the best I can. I hire people every year to knock it down. I don't want it all over. I just want it on the edges, and so I do clear it out in the middle. I do the best I can. Any questions?
Public Works Director Adam Wason said that it is not a question of whether she is allowed to keep the bamboo or not, but whether Charrington would be fined. Wason explained that she would have a 90-day window to show that she is making an effort to eradicate the bamboo on the property.
So what's being proposed is that you would have the 90-day period to get the bamboo removed and show significant progress.
It won't go away in 90 days.
We're asking that you show the significant progress in order to continue that. Again, the board's purview is that they can't waive the city council's ruling that yellow bamboo has been added. That is no longer allowed, hasn't been since the code was updated. So what's being proposed is that you'll be allowed time to remediate and show significant progress.
The board unanimously voted to waive the fines if in 90 days Charrington shows she is making considerable efforts to remove the bamboo. The next Board of Public Works meeting will be held on July 19th. On July 5th, at the Bloomington Utilities Service Board meeting, Utilities Engineer Phil Peden asked the board to approve an agreement with Christopher Burke Engineering for coffer dam design work at Lake Lemon.
This is for preliminary engineering design for cofferdams around the trestle at Shuffle Creek on the south side of Lake Lemon. And it is to create the design for cofferdams so that the members of the trestle and the footers are no longer inundated by any water that might stage above them and cause damage to them.
According to Peden, the contract is set not to exceed $47,200. Board President Jeff Emmon asked further questions about the job.
I do have a question. So I just looked into this a little bit, looking at it on Google Maps. I mean, I've driven by it, but I can see that there's the back, the shallow water wetland area. Looks like maybe some lotus or something growing in there. And then there's a stream over on the east side. Looks like maybe there's six I don't know what those structures are, the individual structures are called, but the supports. And it said that the trestle was built in about 1906. The lake was built in 1953. So what is the immediacy? What's the need for doing this now? And how is it that USB is, or the City of Bloomington Utilities is responsible for this work? Those are my two questions.
Director of Utilities Vic Kelson responded and explained why Bloomington is responsible for Lake Lemon.
Trestle long predates the existence of the lake. When the city built the lake, the city signed a contract with the railroad. At the time, it was the Illinois Central, I believe. That contract states that the city is responsible for repairs to any damages.
Kelson said that the study on the coffer dams would be paid for by the city. However, the cost of building the dams would be negotiated to split between the railroad, the Lake Lemon Conservancy, and Bloomington Utilities. Board member Kirk White asked that the project be mindful of the different constituencies at the lake.
Yeah, there's a lot of different uses. We just need to be mindful of being a good neighbor, knowing that we have to do this kind of work, but absolutely, when would the least disruptive time be? Absolutely.
The board voted to approve the contract with Christopher Burke Engineering. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.